Today, our spotlight member is Jeff Heinen. And of course, we all know and appreciate the Heinens grocery store brand. They're headquartered in Warrensville Heights since 1962. They're now in their 92nd year with 23 stores. But today we're going to get to know Mr. Jeff Heinen, brother of Tom, son of John, grandson of Joe. Is that right? Did I do that right?
Pretty close.
Very good. So Jeff, thank you for spending time with us today. And we're here to hear your story, to talk about the 92 years of Heinen's success as a local brand. And then possibly you might talk on the challenges of our times. Jeff, go right ahead. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks very much. And thanks everybody for taking their time to listen to a little bit about Heinens. As Steve said, my grandfather started the business in 1929, and my brother and I represent the third generation, and we have 3 children in the business now, representing the 4th generation. The children are about 30 years of age, so we're transitioning over to them. We have 23 stores, 19 in Northeast Ohio and 4 in suburban Chicago. Something that makes us very unique is we're probably the only grocery chain with less than 80 stores that do our own product distribution. We have 2 warehouses and a production facility, all in Warrensville Heights. So that's a brief outline of our history. Steve asked me to talk a little bit about my own history, and not much to say there other than my brother and I were not the kind of kids who helped out since we entered grade school in our stores. Our father did not think that anybody under 16 years of old could really add a whole lot of value. So we did not really start working in the Heinen stores until we were 16 years old. What my father did believe is that kids should work. So my brother and I were caddies starting at age 12. And we did that for the 4 years before we turned 16. Wow. We both worked in a variety of departments during high school and our college years. My brother went to Bucknell University. I went to Stanford University. And we did not follow the kind of conventional wisdom that family members should go work somewhere else before they go to work in the family business. We more or less entered Heinens after we graduated from college. Our first jobs, though, were very much clerk associate jobs. And over the 40 years, we both have done an awful lot of the various roles at Heinens. And over those 40 years, the industry certainly has changed a lot from the mom and pop stores of the past to what is a very complex food system. If you think about these facts about Heinens, in light of the fact that we're a very, very small sliver, tiny sliver of the $600 billion food industry. But Heinens, each week we sell about 3 million items every week. We carry about 35,000 different items from all over the world. We produce and manufacture over 500 items every week. We have about 250,000 customer transactions every week, and we have about 3,500 associates. And all of that complexity kind of explains in a nutshell why the industry has really moved from family-run businesses to large publicly owned chains. And so the question would be maybe is, well, why have we survived for 90 plus years? And I would first say we're really proud to be in the 2 to 3% of all family-run businesses that kind of make it to the 4th generation. We're also very proud that about 30% of our associates have some of their own family connection with our company. We were very fortunate that my grandfather set a great foundation that the succeeding generations have never really deviated from. He believed that high quality products delivered with great service can only really happen by treating your people well and understanding that they drive whatever success you might have. So he basically followed the golden rule of treat your associates as you would like to be treated, and why we have we've never deviated from that, and why we formalize that maybe a bit differently than they did. It basically still drives our decision making. And one other thing I'll mention is that, you know, it's kind of ironic. My brother and I are not big business book readers, but we crossed paths with two Harvard professors, and we had adapted some of their thinking to our business, and there's still kind of two guidelines we follow today. The first professor was a guy named Michael Tracy, and he wrote a book about how companies compete called The Discipline of Market Leaders. And in short, he said you really need to excel in one of the three areas of price, product, or service. And at the time, we looked at price and knew that we could never be and never could sustain being the lowest priced option for our customers. We looked at product and knew that we needed to be a market leader in some areas, but we could never be in all areas, because almost by definition, a supermarket needs to be many things to many people. And I would argue almost by definition as well, that no one is the best at everything they do. But what we did tell ourselves is we could be the market leader in customer service. And we're in an industry where labor is far and away the largest expense line item we have. It accounts for 2/3 of our operating costs. So the idea of providing exceptional service is not easily accomplished. And when price is such an important factor for so many customers' decisions, it makes it even more difficult. And so at that point, when we decided that customer service was going to be where we truly could differentiate ourselves from the way other people do business in our industry, we started to invest in the training and development of our people. And in essence, we practiced what others in our industries preach but don't really do, is we invest in our people because we do believe they are our most important asset versus just being a cost to be minimized. The second Harvard professor that we crossed paths with was a guy by the name of Len Schlesinger, and his theory that we adapted is called the service profit chain. And it simply says that you cannot deliver to highly satisfied customers without highly satisfied associates. And one manifestation of that is that virtually every significant decision we make goes through the first filter of what does this mean for our associate satisfaction? I would suggest that in retail, that isn't generally the first thing people think about. So in essence, truly believing people are our most important asset, and being committed to investing in their development and training makes us unusual in the food industry. And more importantly, we believe creates a different shopping experience for our customers. We're grocers. We frequently say this is not a complicated business, but in fact, it is very complicated. And those simple guidelines I just mentioned keep us kind of on the appropriate path to be successful. So that in essence is a little bit about our history and a little bit about kind of our governing philosophies. Cool. So I'm not sure where you want to go from there, Steve.
Oh, I'll take it. I mean, Jeff and I had a good conversation the other day, and we talked about a lot of things. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was, and I asked the question, are you guys is Heinens a small business? And of course you said, yes, we are. And you're a local small business. And with that comes, I think, a lot of local responsibility. Can you talk about that?
We are, from our perspective, a small business because most of the people we compete against are very much way larger than we are. And even though we are in Chicago, we grew up here, we live here. I mean, Cleveland is our hometown, and so we consider ourselves a local business. And we also think local is very important because, you know, the health of Cleveland is really important to our long-term success. And in fact, that is really why we invested in our downtown Cleveland store. We knew that when we had looked at stores in downtown Cleveland for some time, and we just did not believe we could be successful. There were not enough people. And so we would turn down opportunities to do that. And then, you know, all of us would recall that kind of, you know, pre-COVID, Cleveland was a little bit on the cusp of, and behind other cities, but on the cusp of kind of people wanting to have a more urban experience and live downtown. No grocery store could make money based on the population. And so we didn't invest in downtown Cleveland because we thought we would make money. In fact, we knew we would lose a lot of money. And the good news is our forecast was right, and the bad news is our forecast was right. We've lost a lot of money, but it was our investment in downtown Cleveland to keep Cleveland healthy, which, as a private business, we have the advantage of thinking long-term. It's something we do across many, many facets of our business. And so that was part of investing in our community, being a local citizen. And, you know, we're asked, I can't tell you how many times, thousands and thousands of requests, because there are so many good organizations trying to do good work, and we're a very visible aspect of the community. So that's always a challenge, but being local is important, and the move toward residents buying local and thinking local has been a good thing for us.
Yeah, good. And then in buying local, we did talk also about the local food and the folks in Illinois, how different that is than in Cleveland here. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we have put a strong focus on buying local, probably for 15 plus years now. And it really started with produce. And, you know, if you can buy local produce, you know, the ship time is 1 day. You're buying produce in California, and the ship time is a few days. And so we think it's better, and freight's a big part of cost, of food cost. And so it made sense economically in terms of our pricing. And what Steve referenced was one of the biggest surprises to us when we did go to Illinois, which is also a Midwest state and an agricultural state, is most of Illinois is what's the word I'm looking for? Not commodity, I've drawn a blank on it, but large industrial agriculture. It's corn and soybeans and wheat, and not really food for human consumption directly. And Ohio is way different. So it kind of means that, like in the summer, and we're kind of leaving this right now as we get into the fall, is 60 to 70% of the produce we sell is actually local. It's all from within 2 hours of Cleveland, which is really, I think, remarkable. And we think it actually creates a way better produce purchasing experience for our customers.
Yeah. You know, these two things, I think they might tie in a little bit. We talked a long time about technology and the cost of technology, and to be successful, you have to make investments in technology, and maybe that ties in with the grocery store of the future. What that looks like, what does Amazon mean to you, all of that, because that's all tied in with technology.
I mean, so, I'm sure all of you get asked this question, and you get asked it a fair amount, is kind of what keeps you up at night? What are the things you worry about? And the reality for us, the two largest things that keep me from sleeping well are technology and Amazon. And so on the technology piece, it's just because, we kind of woke up in the early 2000s that technology was such an important piece to long-term success. We were kind of behind the curve, and for actually a business of our size, we're pretty, our technology is pretty advanced, but what goes with that is this tremendous investment in software and hardware, and just as importantly, personnel. And it's one of the reasons we expanded to Chicago, is we didn't want to be bigger necessarily. We didn't think we needed to be bigger in terms of being successful and how we, as a merchant, but we thought it was critical for scale, for technology. And I'm sure all of you are experiencing some of the same trends. That you need more and more, you need good information to make the best sort of decisions, but the cost of that and the demands for kind of to meet, whether it's supply or customers or whatever, technology is become an extraordinarily expensive piece of our equation, and it just seems to have a voracious appetite. So we worry about technology costs, and where does that ever end? And I don't think that it really does. But we also worry about Amazon. And I, as all of you, small local businesses for the most part, I would always challenge people to think about how often you use Amazon, both personally and professionally. And we very much think they've already started to change the grocery industry, and they're going to change it even more. And one could argue that what Amazon's done is increased convenience and lowered prices, and that's a good thing. If you look a little further down the road, the changes might not be everything we all wish for. And it's one of the interesting things to me is whether you're for downtown Cleveland or some of these suburbs of Cleveland that try and have a more vibrant downtown, if all the bricks and mortar get wiped out by Amazon, you're not going to have that. It's going to be different, and maybe different isn't worse, maybe it is. But so Amazon is definitely a fear. And as we think, what is the grocery store of the future? We don't think bricks and mortar is going away, but it's going to get a lot. We're in an industry where, maybe you've heard this, is our gross, our net profit percent is 1% to 2%. It's a pretty narrow margin of error, and whether it's technology or labor costs or whatever that continue to rise. And again, price being seemingly more and more important to the American consumer, there isn't much cushion for the average grocery retailer. And so what does that mean? And how do we succeed? Are we going to become basically kind of a small glorified convenience store where we are convenient for people when they're running in to get a couple of items? I don't know. We carry 35,000 items now. How does that get trimmed down? We do believe we have to have high quality perishables that make people want to come in to the store to get those, that homegrown produce examples is an excellent example of that. But we have to, almost have food however people want to consume it, whether that's raw, partially prepared, completely prepared. Those are all
completely prepared.
Completely prepared, right? But it means we kind of need to be a restaurant and a grocery store.
Yeah.
And then we have to create an experience within the store where people actually want to go in there and get out of their pajamas and off their couch and say, I want to go to Heinens because it's a good experience. I get products I can't get elsewhere. We have a very simple metric for our people to understand is our goal is to have our customers leave the store in a better mood than when they walked in.
That's good.
We accomplish that. Doesn't mean they walk out, doing cartwheels, but in a better mood when they walked in. And if we accomplish that, we think we'll be okay. But since most people look at grocery shopping as a chore, to have them enjoy that experience and look forward to go to the grocery store is truly a key to our success.
I think you said this, exceeding standards, staying relevant to your customers is so critical. Tell us about today's challenges.
Yeah, I'm guessing that we're all having the same challenges. To say that we're all fatigued, I would be surprised if there isn't anybody who isn't fatigued by that and wants it to end. I would be surprised if there isn't any of us who aren't having major supply problems. In our case, it's supplied both in terms of the products we sell, but it's also in, equipment and parts to service that equipment. Lead times for many of the things that we try to purchase in terms of equipment and parts, it's stretching into 30 to 36 weeks and makes life a lot harder. And for what it's worth, just out of would be interesting maybe to some is that in terms of the products we sell, we haven't reached kind of the heart of March, April, May of 20 type supply chain issues with our food products, but our fill rates on the orders, I mentioned we do our own distribution, and our fill rates on our orders are approaching 50%. And so meaning that 1 out of every 2 items we order, we don't get. And as a small company, we don't necessarily order, the Krogers of the world order every day. We might only order every 2 or 3 weeks. The good news in our case is because the proteins and the produce, because we deal with small family businesses all over the country, we should, from whether it's produce or meat or seafood, it's not the same issue, but in terms of the packaged goods, dairy, frozen, grocery, there's going to be increasing outages that you'll see, whether it's at Heinens or anywhere for that matter. And I'm sure we're all having the issue with labor.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, well, let me back up or start that over again, is that we've been fortunate in terms of labor in the sense that, as I mentioned earlier, we believe our people drive our success. So we pay our people better, we give them benefits. So our people stay with us for a long time. So our labor situation is better than most retailers. That being said, people are retiring early. I'm sure some of you have seen that. Great for them, not so great for us, but we're happy for them who have retired earlier. And then getting new people to replace those retirees or the few who decide they want to move on is really, really hard. So I'm sure it's a problem we're all having, and we don't, as Heinens, really think the labor or the supply problem looks like it's going to change anytime until at some point.
I don't notice. I don't notice, this is a compliment, I don't notice a labor shortage in your store. So
yeah, I mean, we're trying really hard. And again, our retention has always been, way higher than industry.
Well, why do you,
it's becoming a challenge.
What is causing this? What's your opinion? What's causing this massive labor shortage right now? Is it unemployment?
Really
is it
that path?
Huh?
I mean, the conventional wisdom is that if people are getting paid not to work, why would they work? And that's certainly a piece of it.
Yeah.
I think people have childcare issues, people have healthcare concerns. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons, but when we add all of those up, it results in people not being able to work.
Yeah.
Or wanting to work.
Yeah. So what was your grandfather like? Your grandfather and your father, what was that experience like? Was it a good experience? Any stories from the past that you want to share with us?
Well, my grandfather was a people's person. And so my father, on the other hand, I certainly, I don't want to denigrate his
yeah, don't do that.
interpersonal skills, but it was, he was a little more numbers oriented. But as I said, both my grandfather and my father truly believed people drove success, and taught my brother and I that is really the secret. And so really the biggest difference between my brother and I and probably my father for sure, and my grandfather as well, is, I mean, the business got complex. I mean, my brother and I kind of took over in the early 90s, and the biggest kind of earthquake in our industry, the biggest change was Walmart became very large in the early 90s. We recognized, was my brother and I recognized that people were going to be our key. And then, kind of two things happened. My father wasn't totally convinced of that, about training and development.
Yeah.
It's kind of like good for those other people, but I'm not going to worry about that type thing. And my brother and I didn't think that was sort of the right approach. And so a combination, I mentioned, I crossed paths with Michael Tracy, actually following my wife on one of her business trips. So being a spouse on a business trip is a great deal. And he was a speaker at one of her company's events. And this is where I crossed paths with him. And so I was very fortunate. And then my father passed away in '94. And so we just kind of started kind of a confluence of events, and we started to very much invest in our people. And the only other comment I would make about that is that, my brother and I also realized in the early 90s is we started to invest in our stores because we kind of fallen behind a little bit. And we were spending millions of dollars on the physical assets of our stores, but realized that even though we believed our people drove our success, we weren't investing in them at the same level we were investing in our physical facilities. And my brother and I looked at each other one day and said, what's wrong with this picture? We're spending millions of dollars on bricks and mortar. And the thing we really believe drives our success, our people, while we've always been willing to pay them, we weren't investing in their training and development. And that's when we embraced that wholeheartedly, and we've never really stopped.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good story. Okay, time's running out. If there's a last word that you want to say to small business, any words of advice for me or the folks here, hang in there kind of thing. But and then I'll open it up to Q&A if there's anybody has any questions.
Well, no, open it up to Q&A. If we have time for that, then it's better to answer a question someone might have than answer something they don't care about.
Anybody questions?
Yeah, I got a maybe a fluff question or something like that. What was your? I was just curious. When you said you went to Stanford, what was your degree in, or was it business? Or
no,
no, you were
classic
going to
liberal arts. I majored in history and economics, but economics at Stanford, at least the part I did, was all economic, alternative economic systems. So
okay.
No business whatsoever.
Okay.
Now, having said, the business experience I got is, again, my father, I mean, as a parent, my parents were great. My father was great, but he believed and you pay your own way kind of thing. So I worked all through college, and so
me too.
That was probably the best. That was the better business experience. At 3 different jobs throughout my college career that helped me understand how businesses operate and how they were different maybe from Heinens.
Yeah. And lastly, we love Heinens. We go. That's our only place we shopped. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Sure. Nope.
Working to keep it
true.
that way.
And it's true. It's true. It's you can feel it's like a family. You can feel you're part of the family. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
Jeff, I've got a question, but I want to first of all build on what Peter said. My wife is shopping right now at Heinens on Green Road, so and she doesn't even know I'm listening to you, so I will tell her when she gets back.
But don't have her YouTube in.
but coming back to the people thing, I noticed in the past, and I think it's still true, you do a great job of, I'm not sure, are they intern positions or part-time? How are you, I think you're really making a big difference on the workforce of the younger generation, okay? How are you reaching out? How are you attracting the younger generation? Not necessarily so that they'll stay with you forever, but that they can learn about a work ethic, they can learn about customer service, they can learn about all the things that you guys teach.
Well, I'll give you two answers to the aspects around that. One is, and I don't know how many of you were familiar with West Point Market down in Akron, and it was a one-store operation. The guy's name was Russ Vernon, and he was a great merchant. And I was at a convention that he happened to be the speaker at, and it was a time of labor shortage, kind of like now. And somebody asked him a question. He talked about, his topic was training people, and kind of this grizzled grocery veteran said, you've been talking a lot about, training people, but, it's a waste of money. All they do is work for a little bit of time and then they leave. Why would you invest in that? And his answer, obviously, has always stuck with me. And, this is, almost 30 years ago. His answer was, what happens if you don't train them and they stay? And it absolutely stuck with me. And so when we started training people intensively, starting in the mid-90s, it included our students. And we include students because, for many people, the majority of the interactions they might have might be with a student, whether it's a high school or college student. The realities of our industry, and we're a union in Cleveland, and so there's seniority issues and everything else that we deal with. And, if you shop at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, some of the interactions they're going to have is with students. And if you don't train them, what kind of experience will that be? And so, so the reality is we train everybody. And so we have kind of 3, and it's evolved a little bit, and we're kind of going back to our basics at the moment, but we kind of have 3, we believe in 3 things. It's about teaching people self-leadership, which is applicable to anybody and everybody. You can't lead others if you can't lead yourself. And then the second kind of aspect is interpersonal. leadership, and then the last is team leadership. And so those are the three kind of things that we focus upon more than anything else. And all of our people, students and otherwise, go through self-leadership. And so that's why some of our younger people are better. And one of the things that we learned is younger people are in school, right? They're in the mode to learn. It's guys who have the color of hair of mine who don't, or no hair, who don't necessarily like change and don't necessarily want to change. And so while we clearly believe old dogs can learn new tricks, it's actually easier in some respects to help students understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. And the other,
I have one more suggestion, very seriously. You might encourage them, particularly the ones who are in college, to get on LinkedIn. And when they get on LinkedIn, to put Heinens as where they work. And then you'll have a little more free publicity of people seeing that Bill worked at Heinens, or it might help you find other students that would want to connect with you and work for you. If the students that work for you are promoting, hey, I work at Heinens downtown, or I work
and
at
it's
Heinens.
it's been a great experience, right? And no, it's a great idea. And the one thing also, when you asked your question initially, is we were a little slow to do this, but we're pretty good at it now. Is, people, our students, we have a lot of people who do work with us, and some of those people we'd love to have make a career out of the food industry, but they didn't really understand the career path and what that path could look like, and what they could actually earn over time. And so we've gotten way, way better at helping our students understand that this is an industry where you can make a career, and help them understand just not only their career path, but help them understand at a little deeper level just what a fascinating industry this is.
Excellent. Anybody else?
Hey, Jeff, they have one question. I always ask this here, coming from the YMCA. Do you have a YMCA story?
Unfortunately, I do not. I do not. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I always ask that question when I talk to people. Everyone had a YMCA story when it was growing up. So that's okay. We got to help you get one, Jeff.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Hear me now? Can anybody hear me speaking?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I just had a process question regarding every grocery store has a card, and Heinens has a card, but it's not like a discount card or anything like that. What is that card for? I always wanted to know.
We've promised not to talk about this, Veronica. I promised him we're not going to talk about that.
No, Steve's not. He's not serious.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
So yeah. So simply, when we started with a card, which was 25 years ago, our whole industry did at that time, and for the most part still does today. They penalize you for not having the card, and they charge you higher prices. And for us, that logic was really flawed. It's like, well, if you don't want a card, whether because you don't want your personal information or not, or you don't want your personal information shared at any level, meaning just within Heinens in our case, we understand that we're not going to penalize you by charging you 20 cents more, 30 cents more an item. And in some cases, I go on vacation and go into the grocery store, and the prices between having a card and not having a card can be $1 an item. I mean, it's crazy. And so it starts with not penalizing you. There are things that we do that add value to that card. We do have a few items, half a dozen, maybe 6 to 8 items every week that are reduced only for people who have cards. And so I'm guessing we don't have your email address or a correct one if you have a Heinens card, because we email, our card's called Tasteful Rewards, and we email every week an email that has 6 or 8 items that are a different price, number one. I think more importantly, or equally importantly, is we have personalized savings. So one of those IT expenses we have, our investments, is that, and hopefully those of you who are Heinens shoppers and have a Heinens card, you've seen this. But
I am a Heinens shopper. I shop in Hudson, Ohio.
Okay, and so but we may not have your email address. You may not have signed up for Tasteful Rewards. And you need to do that because we have what we call personalized promotions. And so based on what every month, we have something that's aimed specifically at you as a customer. So on that personalized promotion, 99% of the time, we're going to give just you that offer that is something you purchase.
That's cool.
So we use it that way. We market to people with other targeted offers based on their purchase history. And so that card allows us to market to you, not just on those personalized promotions, but in other ways. We may know that you love fresh corn, and when the first corn of the season comes in, we may send you an email and say, hey, first local fresh corn of the season is now arrived. And so we use it that way. We'll use it in another way. I mentioned we get literally thousands and thousands of donation requests. And so how do we determine, how do we contribute to those organizations that are important to our customers? Well, we're transparent about this. It's on our website. It's on a little pamphlet we have in each store. Is we do it based on your spending. If you spend $100 a year with Heinens, obviously we're not very important to you as a store, and so your organization may not get the focus from us that you would maybe wish. You spend $10,000 a year with us, I'll guarantee you will respond to your contribution request. Now, because we get thousands and thousands of these, and may not, our philosophy, which again is clearly stated, is we do smaller amounts to more organizations versus huge amounts. But that's another way we use it. Another way we use it, just to kind of just being honest, because you're all business owners, is you have a problem that you don't think we handled something very well, and if you're $100 a year customer, we don't really necessarily care that you're not happy with what our solution is. You spend $10,000 a year, we care a lot more.
Yeah.
And so
is that the cutoff level? Is 10,000 the cutoff level?
No, it is not, because we recognize, we started this a long time ago, and one of the early comments we got is, when we first started this, having a card, and as I said, we're very transparent, and so we said basically what I just said here, and a customer said, well, I don't get that. I raised a family of 5 kids, and I spent lots of money at your store. Now it's just me and my spouse, and we spend way less, and you're not treating me with any idea of what I've spent in the past. Now, when we started the card 25 years ago, that was very true. That's way less true today. But no, we recognize that not all family sizes are different. We also recognize that, as much as we would love 100% of people shopping dollars, we're not going to get there. So no.
But actually, you answered my question, because I was trying to figure out what the value for me to be able to swipe it would be. And I think you answered it early on. I would like to get personalized emails and stuff. So I will fix it when I go in there today.
Yeah, you can go in or you can do it online. You can call our consumer affairs and as Steve can tell you, and this would be true for anybody. I mean, we're a small business, right? So I answer my own phone. I don't have an administrative assistant. Now you might get voicemail, but I return calls. And I return your call whether you spend $100 a year with us or 10,000. But so if something is, you know, like if Veronica, if you aren't happy with the whole process with getting your email part of our system or making sure your Tasteful Rewards card is all correct, I'm very reachable by phone, and I'd be happy to take care of it.
Cool, excellent. Jeff, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.